Hi guys, and welcome to this exciting lesson on JavaScript. I'm sure by now you are excited to begin this very powerful journey to learning JavaScript. So we are going to be talking about the basics of JavaScript, the importance of JavaScript, and how it can be added to a web page. So we're just going to move right ahead by discussing about how the JavaScript came about, what is JavaScript, and so on. So JavaScript is a computer programming language used mainly for web development purposes, and it was created by Netscape in 1995, and that was a way for them to add actions to website. JavaScript can be considered as a verb, right? Because it adds actions to the web page, like playing YouTube videos. That's an action. Playing. So when you play, that's an action. You are playing. Signing up for a username, tweeting, posting, those are actions, and they are made possible by the use of JavaScript. Also, JavaScript is very lightweight and then is dynamic with object-oriented capabilities. Other object-oriented languages are like Python, C++, and so on. So without JavaScript, the web page will just be static unless you use materialized CSS before the page can become a little bit dynamic. But without JavaScript on the web page, the web page is still as good as static. So right about now, we are going to talk about the importance or the uses of JavaScript. JavaScript is used fundamentally for the development of web pages. Like I earlier mentioned, you use JavaScript to add actions to web pages. Like for example, when you hover, you notice very well, you see when you hover on some websites, when you hover over something, you see some action. Maybe the font sizes get larger, or the font color changes, or a message is written somewhere. Another action could be a click. When you click, something happens. So all those are being made possible with the use of JavaScript, and those are actions that are added to a web page. Then there are also so many other things you can do on a web page using JavaScript. We can also use JavaScript frameworks. JavaScript frameworks are actually a collection of JavaScript code libraries that provide a pre-written code, and these pre-written code are used by most of our coders nowadays to code websites. So hardly will you find a coder hard coding the HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript. All of that has already been pre-written in libraries, so the coder just uses those frameworks of JavaScript that contain those libraries and just implement easily. But as a beginner, you need to understand the basics before you start applying what has already been made, so that you get a full grasp of it. If you go directly to start studying the framework without knowing the roots, it's not going to be good. So it's very good you know the roots. So I'll just list a couple of frameworks of JavaScript that you can have. You have React, you have React Native, you have Angular, you have Vue, you have Node.js, and what have you. You have, sure, there are so many frameworks of JavaScript you can have there. And one fun fact too you should take note is that JavaScript can be used to build very powerful social media platforms. Take for example Instagram. I'm sure it should be surprising to you that Instagram actually runs on JavaScript. Yes, almighty Instagram runs on JavaScript. And then also we can use JavaScript to build web servers and the development of server applications. This is really huge. Like web servers, you can actually code web servers with JavaScript. Do you love games? Like, yeah, I think most of the guys would love games. Yeah, maybe some girls too. But anyway, JavaScript can be used to develop browser games. How exciting is that? So JavaScript can go as far as being used to develop browser games. Then also JavaScript can be used to program drones. That one is like I think it should be surprising to most of us right now. Like, wow, JavaScript program. Yes, JavaScript can be used to program drones too. And then it can be used to, in short, JavaScript is like a modern language in doing a lot of things. You can also develop desktop applications and a lot more. So, but our main focus on this lesson is to see how we can add JavaScript on a web page. And for us to add JavaScript on a web page, there are two methods. The first method, we create a script tag. I hope you recall from HTML, right? Because that's like one of the prerequisites of this lesson. You should have gone through at least HTML, if not CSS, at least HTML to know some root basics. HTML, so you create a script tag, then you add your code within that tag. Then the second method is by adding an external JavaScript. You still make use of the script tag quite alright, but in the script tag, you add the link to the external JavaScript file. That means the JavaScript code is not written as part of it's not written in the HTML document. So we are no need to bother. We are just going to look at the two methods right now with a very simple code to alert on the page hello world. So it's just a simple code that's just going to alert the message hello world. So before we move, I'm sure you have heard of code editors, right? So we need a good code editor for you to actually enjoy the beauty of coding. And the best code editor I would recommend here is Visual Studio Code. This is it here. Visual Studio Code is like, for me, it's like the best. I'm not being biased, but it's for me. I love Visual Studio Code more than any other one. You have others like Sublime Text, yeah, Atom, and the others. But I love using Visual Studio Code best. You can do more research to know why Visual Studio Code is most preferable. Anyway, without any further waste of time, let's go straight to what we have to discuss about. So we have to create a folder, right, to put all our project files in it. Let's name the folder JavaScript. Okay, there you go. So you open the folder. The folder is empty, right? But we need to fill in some files in it. So let's create a new text file and we name it index.html. Index.html. Do you know why we add this extension .html? It is so that the file we are just about creating should be converted to an HTML document, to an HTML file. Let's press enter and see what happens. We receive a warning. If you change a file name extension, the file might become unusable. Are you sure you want to change it? Just click yes, just ignore the rubbish. Yes. There you go. Let's increase the icon size. You see, it has automatically changed to a web page. To a web page file, sorry. So let's open this using our Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code. Okay. There it is opening. And one thing I love about Visual Studio Code is this. Let's do the trick and you'll see for yourself. By just typing HTML. HTML5. Oh, let's wait for it to load a little. Like HTML. You see, it pops up this way. HTML, you have HTML5, HTML, XML. You take the HTML5 because that's like the latest version of HTML we are coding with. So you click, you see it automatically generates the HTML syntax for you. All you need to do is just to feed in your code and whatsoever you have to feed into the page. Let's rename this title JavaScript lesson 1. JavaScript lesson 1. I hope you recall this. If you have forgotten, do well to check on your HTML lessons. Try to check on your HTML lessons to refresh your mind on some of these things. So let's go ahead to add the script tag. We have the script. You see it pops up automatically here. Script. You see it fills it in for you. So this is where we type. This is the first method. We create a script tag and then we type the code within that script tag. And take note, the JavaScript code we are typing is still on the same document, still in the same document as the HTML code. So let's type a simple alert. You should do hello world. Let's say hello coders, not hello world every time. Hello coders, I am coding in JavaScript. Let's say this is method 1. Okay, so let's save that. We have saved it, and then let's right click and open with, let's choose another browser, maybe Firefox. No, it's good to have not just one browser on your computer. You can have like for me, I have Firefox, I have Chrome. Like those are my two main browsers that I use, Firefox and Chrome. So Firefox is taking quite some time. Okay, now it's coming up. So you can choose to use Firefox or Chrome. Those are like my browsers to use, but most often I use Chrome though. I'm just using Firefox for demo. Okay, seems like our Firefox is taking some time to open. Let's use our Chrome. Let's use our Chrome. Let's just double click on that, and okay, voila. You see this, hello coders, I'm coding in JavaScript method 1. Let's try to cancel it and reload. Hello coders, I'm coding in JavaScript method 1. Voila, there you go. It works perfectly right. Let's go back to our code. This is the alert. You see it is on the same page. On the same document as the HTML code. Now let's move to our second method, that is adding an external JavaScript file. First of all, we need to open the folder where we have our JavaScript. Come here, you go to open folder. Yes, it was saved on desktop. Okay, desktop. Yeah, JavaScript. You just yes, JavaScript. Select folder. We have opened the folder, right? This is our index.html. So we have to create a new file. It's the same way as creating a new CSS file. Just the same procedure. What changes is the file extension. So we'll create a new file in that folder. Let's name it as script.js. Press enter. So this is our external script. We come here, let's cut this code away from here. Control X, cut. Okay, let's pop up messages. Control X, let's Control V. Let's change the message. Hello coders, I'm coding in JavaScript. Let's say method 2. The other method was method 1, right? So let's say that's method 2. This one. Saved. Let's go back to our HTML. We need to add the link to that JavaScript document file, that JavaScript file. So before we add it, we need to add the source. You know this favorite statement, right? So since it is in the same folder as the HTML file, you just add the file name and the file extension, and that'll be all. So the file name is script. You add the file extension dot. Immediately you press it, the dot, it pops up here to show you that it has actually seen a file that bears this name in that same folder. So you just click on it, you save, go back to our code, refresh the page. There you go. Hello coders, I'm coding in JavaScript method 2. And where is our JavaScript? Here in this JavaScript file externally. You see, we just added a link to our external JavaScript and it works perfectly. So if you want to know more insights on these lessons, on this particular lesson, you check on our website trycoder.com. You are going to see a detailed explanation of this particular lesson and many other lessons on JavaScript. You also have lessons on Python and so on. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you learned something today, and we are hoping to provide you with more lessons in the future. So the journey has just begun. Keep up the pace, study and practice along. Happy coding, guys. Thanks for watching.